literally everywhere around the world. Whether if it's listening to the radio, playing instruments, singing choir, or listen to your iPod, or just about any other. But when it comes to reading music, some people find it hard to understand. For example, when I was in middle school, I was completely clueless. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the notes were, how long to hold that note, what this time signature was, the rest, and all that other stuff that dealt with music. But as I gradually learned and became familiar, it didn't seem so bad anymore. And hopefully throughout this presentation, I'll help you become familiar with the basics and how to learn how to read music. And the first thing you need to learn about are the musical staff, which consists of 5 lines and 4 spaces. Now, each line and spaces have names, and the lines are E, G, B, D, F, and the spaces they include F, A, C, E. Now, the easier way to remember this is by saying. For the lines, they include, or you could say, every good boy deserves fudge, or every good boy does fine, whichever that is easier for you to remember. Now, for the spaces, you don't really, it's easier to understand, or it's easier to remember because it's spelled face, F-A-C-E. Now, moving on to the clefs, there are 2 clefs. One is the treble clef, and the other is the bass clef. Most of the time, usually the treble clef is used in a piece of music, of a song, or if you're playing an instrument. And usually treble clef is usually played in a violin, piano, flute, clarinet, trumpet, or any type of music that can play higher sounds, higher pitch. For a bass clef, usually they play in a lower pitch or lower sounds, which probably a bass clef or a bassoon if you ever heard one. Now here I drew one for you, and this is a treble clef, which I told you earlier that is mostly often used. And right next to it has 2 numbers. These 2 numbers are called the time signature. Now, the top number, which is a 4, both are 4s, but the top numbers tells us how many beats are in a measure or a bar, and the bottom number tells us what the duration of the note, or how long that note is. Now, the fourth thing is the type of notes you need to remember, and this is the type of notes that you usually see. These are the notes that you usually see in a music and are the most common. There are many other notes, but this is some of the notes that I usually, or that you probably sometimes see during the music. This oval shape is called a whole note, which equals 4 beats. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a beat. And a half note equals 2 beats. So let's say if in a measure you want to, in a measure it has to have 4 counts. So you probably have 2 half notes, because since a half note equals 2 beats, you want to add another 2 beats to equal a whole 4 count. And a quarter note only equals to a 1 beat. So if, let's say, if in a measure or in a bar, you want to include 4 counts, you would add 4 quarter notes, since it only equals to 1 beat. So you will have 4 quarter notes, which is usually goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, Oh, for the whole note and the half note, you see that it's not darkened as the quarter note and the eighth note, because when you have notes that are not darkened in, that means you only clap or you only play as the first count, which is, let's say, okay, whole note is four beats, so you only clap the four, you only play or count, not count, but clap the first beat. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 in your head. And for a half beat, or for a half note, you would do the same thing, but counting 1, 2, and then if you add another half note, it would say 1, 2, 3, 4, which I will explain later after this. And now eighth note equals to half beat. So when you see like this, you count 1 and 2 and. Since it's darkened, you would clap that. You wouldn't hold it just like a whole note or half note. You would play or clap it out. Now after the types of notes, you would see the different types of rests, which in a piece of music, which you will see this, which sort of looks like a hat, sort of, if you kind of like tip it, which is called a whole rest. And this one is called a half rest, and it's usually count as two beats, but you don't actually clap, because all these rests tells us an interval of silence, which means you don't play or clap in that area, which I will show you in a few minutes. So a whole rest equals to four beats, and same thing as a half rest. And for a quarter rest, which is equal to one beat of rest, and then so after learning through those, we'll put them all together. You have your treble clef and your time signature, which is 4/4. So everything in each measure, this is the measure, which is the bar, or a bar, you can say a bar. So here's your first note, is the whole note. So you would clap 2, and you're holding the rest of the beat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you rest 2, 3, 4, and then you clap the first beat, but you're counting the 2 in your head, and then you're clapping the half note, the third clap, and then silently clapping or counting the fourth one in your head. So let's start over. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're resting 2, 3, 4. You're clapping 1, 2, and then clapping at 3, 4. And now here's your quarter note that I was telling you about, which is equal to 1 beat. So it's 1. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you clap or count, or you clap and play as 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and the next measure contains the 8 notes, and the 8 notes are a little different because usually don't count as 1, 2, 3, 4. You clap it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so if I were to have it right now, it would look like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you would capitalize 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then the next measure has a quarter rest. So you rest for 1 beat, and then you have your whole note. Your half note, which is 1, and then you don't count on the second count, and then you clap on this one because it's a quarter note, which is just 1 beat, and you clap that one, and then your last beat or your your last note of the song would be a whole note. It's usually happen in every piece of music, usually end with a whole note. So you end it like 1, 2, 3, 4. So from the beginning, from the beginning over and again, we would clap 1, 2, 3, 4. You rest 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then you rest, and then you clap 1, 2, and then you clap the quarter note 3, and then 4, and then the last measure is 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully you enjoyed this presentation and how to learn how to read music.